Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for coming out and spending some time on school night to come out and we can talk together a little bit about some of the things that we can do to help improve the youth soccer experience. And that's a large part of what we've been talking about throughout the day with the board of directors and just recently with the coaches within the club. One of the things that we talked about with the board of directors, because we were talking about a little bit of the structure and the environment of a soccer club, are the 4 adult groups, the 4 pillars of adults that support youth soccer. Those are the parents, the coaches, the administrators, and the referees. That those 4 groups of adults support the youth game, and the more that those 4 groups of adults interact with one another, respect one another, work together, the better the whole experience becomes for everybody involved, the kids and the adults involved in youth soccer. So we're going to go through a few ideas here in regard to communication between the parent and the coach, because that's where it all begins. Your child signs up for a youth soccer team, somebody volunteers to be the coach, probably one of the other parents, and now all of a sudden there's that chance for that interaction, that dialogue between the coach and the parents. The coach needs to talk with the parents a little bit about what his or her background is in the sport, perhaps some of their coaching certification if they have any, talk a little bit about where they're coming from and working with that particular age group of players. And the parents need to understand and talk to the coach about what they think that they're looking for in the experience for their child's involvement in youth soccer. Well, what's happening too often all across the country, and it's happening in all youth sports, it's not just in soccer, is that communication either isn't there at all, because one party or the other is just a poor communicator, or has actually set up a policy of no communication, sort of a thing, or when they do communicate, it tends to be after an emotional event, usually when something's gone wrong. Because we're probably not, the coach and the parents aren't talking, oh, we won. Well, yeah, that's all just nice and everybody's happy. But it's when the parent in particular thinks something's gone awry with their child's experience in youth soccer that they want to have a talk with the coach. And so those need to happen. But we need to also talk about how do we communicate, when do we communicate, and what's the communication back and forth for both sets of adults to work it all out so that they can improve that environment for the kids. So here's our few ideas. And in cartoons there tends to be a lot of truth, sometimes within a joke. So you see here a group of adults having a go at each other, and the children on the side. It's a law of physics. Rage seeks its own level. And unfortunately, we see this happening around the atmosphere of youth sports. Soccer's not alone. And the atmosphere around youth sporting events is getting more and more volatile, sometimes physically volatile, too often verbally volatile. There's actually an interesting study that I read not long ago. If you drop me an email, I've got it on my computer. I just can't remember the author, the title, but it's from, I want to say it's from the University of Minnesota. And it's something that they might have done in conjunction with the Youth Sports Institute, which is at the University of Michigan. And it's talking about the emotional, psychological impact on children involved in sport with the stress and the atmosphere that's around youth sport fields. And now, even though the adults might be arguing with each other or yelling at the referee, not at the children are experiencing it. It's inferred as basically secondhand stress, kind of like secondhand smoke. You're not the direct smoker, but secondhand smoke can be damaging too. And so even though the child may not be the person that the coach or the parent is yelling at, they might be yelling at the referee, they might be yelling at each other, they might be yelling at other spectators. The children are experiencing that environment, and the emotional stress is being collected upon them. So there's interesting that now sports psychologists and those involved in youth sport have done a study along this idea of the environment that's around a lot of youth sports. So that's one of the things that we obviously need to continue to address to clean up. Some of it is all of the adults involved, the coach, the parents, the team manager, recognizing that the outcome of a youth sport game is not the be-all and end-all of that child's soccer experience. For the majority of the coaches, the outcome of an under-10 soccer game is not going to decide whether or not they can pay the mortgage that month. For the majority of youth coaches, the outcome of the game is not going to decide whether or not they get a bonus check from the club at the end of the season. That's not involved in that particular environment. For all of the children involved, they're not your employees as the coach. So they're not there punching the clock, they're not there as a job, they're there to play. And at a different time in our country, when I was 10 years old, there were no adults at my 10-year-old games. None. Whether it was baseball, soccer, what have you, we played among ourselves. We decided everything. That environment has, unfortunately, swung too far the other way. Adults, whether it be the coaches, the referees, the administrators, the parents, are too involved in youth sport. All of us as the adults need to back out as much as we possibly can. Why have adults gotten so involved in children's games? Partially because our schools have begun to diminish physical education. Our parks and rec systems have begun to diminish their offerings. And we recognize the value of children being involved in sport. And so the good part is we wanted to make that happen. We wanted to get out there, particularly in soccer circles, being a relatively new sport 30 years ago. We wanted to grow that and provide that opportunity across the United States. But because it started off as an adult-centered experience, because the adults were starting up the soccer experience by and large in the United States. And as it went around communities, maybe some of you were involved at the time in the 70s, early 80s, when this was really beginning to blossom. The adults were the ones getting it going for the first time. The kids in most parts of the country had never seen a soccer game. It wasn't on TV. There weren't as many universities playing. The Pro League was limited as to where it was. So, it depended upon a lot as to where you lived. So, in most places, the adults started the whole thing. So it started off as an adult-centric experience. Getting teams organized, building fields, finding people to be referees, finding people to be coaches, getting somebody to do the administration, lining off the fields, putting up the nets, showing the kid how to kick the ball, showing the kids where the positions are out on the field. All of that started with a very coach-centric experience, because the kids had no picture otherwise as to what the game of soccer looked like. They had no reference point. And very adult influenced in terms of the organization and the setup of the entire experience. As a consequence, the setup was an adult model. It was as if the adults were setting up the Parks and Rec League for them to play in, for the adult league to play in. And so we took a lot of that adult perspective and that adult mentality and set it up and imposed it upon the youth soccer experience. Now, we've paid some of the consequences of that, or some of the stress that we see at the matches, some of the dropout that we see on the part of the players at a young age in what should be a lifetime sport, and some of the decision making, and some of, quite frankly, the unwillingness of the adults to let go of the reins. Because the adults have gotten such a feeling of ownership of the whole experience that what should be the kids' game, we've not allowed it to be theirs. In many cases, we've imposed it upon them rather than it being their game that we give to them as a gift. So one of the things that we advocate are the adults involved stepping back a little bit from the whole experience and giving a little bit more of the control and the experience of youth soccer to the kids, a little bit more direct control of them. But as we continue through this environment that we have right now, where we're set up so much with the team setup, and within the team setup, the coach, the parents, and that interaction. we need to talk about that whole experience. And those adults, where it's the coach or the parents on the side trying to joystick. Okay? Sam Holden, I had to learn about, Jeff, I think it was at the course we did in Frisco, okay, where they taught me a little bit of joystick, because I was still saying puppet. Okay? You know, pulling the puppet strings. And, no, coach, get with the decade. Okay? Get the joystick out. Okay? So we have a lot of that going on. We have parents on the side during a match yelling to the players what to do. 90% of the time, the information is categorically wrong. They're yelling things like, kick it, okay? Boot the ball, get the ball, run, okay? And usually that is told to the kids at a tactically wrong time. First of all, you never, ever, 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 ever kick a ball in a soccer game. Never kick a soccer ball. Pass it, dribble it, shoot it, receive it, head it, catch it, okay? Never, ever kick a soccer ball, no matter what. So right up front, that piece of information is categorically wrong. Okay? When an under-8 child gets the ball, everyone around that field should be yelling, dribble, 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 dribble. Most of the grown-ups are yelling, pass, pass, pass. Wrong, wrong, wrong. When I'm 7 years old, I should dribble, 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 shoot. Okay? Dribble, lose the ball, go back, get it, dribble, 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 shoot. Get the ball, dribble, dribble, lose it, go back, get it, dribble, 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 shoot. Okay? Is what I should be doing. I'm under 6 or under 8. So first of all, the information, if we are yelling things from the side of the field during a match, at least begin to get it right. Additionally, at under 6 and under 8, those two age groups in particular, this carries on a little bit as they get a little bit older, but at under 6 and under 8, we have to remember that children that age have a limited attention capacity. They cannot focus on too many tasks at one time. In fact, the majority of 6-year-olds can focus on one task at a time. All right? So, you're 6 years old, the ball is coming to you in the middle of the match. It takes all of your attention capacity to focus on this moving ball to try to judge its speed, its direction, its bounce if it has any, is it in the air, on the ground, its spin if it has any, all of these things to judge the ball, the movement of the ball, to then be able to do something with it in receiving it, passing it, shooting it, whatever you want to do. Now, I'm 6, so I'm in an under 17, which means I'm playing 4-side, which means as the ball is coming to me, what else is coming at me? All the rest of the players. Okay? So that means there's 7 little bodies coming at me. Now, 3 of those bodies wear the same shirt I have, but at that moment they don't particularly care. They want the ball. Alright? So I have to deal with these 7 kids coming at me. Now, what's happening around the field? Almost every adult is yelling something that they think they would do. Most of them, unfortunately, though, never having been in that situation themselves in a match, of kick it or something along those lines. So, I'm 7. Out of the crowd of the adults around the field, which voice do I hear first? Mom or Dad. The people in my life that are the closest to me. Doesn't mean all of the adults are yelling at the same time, but the voices that I can pick out of the crowd that I recognize, Mom, Dad, in that order. 3, next closest relatives if they're there, or the coach. Okay? So as a 7-year-old with limited attention capacity, I have to decide. Do I deal with the ball, or do I say to my mom, what? Oh, you want me to get it, flick it over the other kid, strike it on the volley on the other side. Gotcha. Where'd the ball go? Right?